Hello, Wiffle Nation, and welcome to another episode of the Huntington Wiffle League podcast. I'm your host, Josh Smith, with my co-host,
Jeremy Litton,
and special guest co-host,
Patrick Grill.
We have not had an episode since March in our preseason podcast. Lots happened since then. We've just completed our All-Star game, and we are now having our first ever London-style practice in preparation for the London Wiffle Ball Tournament. So that's going well. But so far, the 2015 season has been going well. We've only been rained out 1 week so far. And we are 5 weeks deep into the season and looking to the second half with 2 more weeks of interleague play and then winding down towards the end of the season and getting to the playoffs. Presently, we have 2 nationally ranked teams in the National Wiffle League Association rankings. We have Breaking Balls at number 5 and Sit on My Base at number 6. This is the first time we've ever had 2 teams consecutively behind one another in the national rankings in our league history. It's also the first time we've had more than one team in the top 10, so hopefully that's something that we can continue to do. We have no undefeated teams. Last week, Sit on My Base and Breaking Balls play each other in interleague play and split the series, so both teams are 9-1, which is still good in the national scene so far. And we only have one team that has yet to win a game, and that would be the Plain White Tees, Andy Hill's franchise that was thrown together overnight just before the season started. With me is Patrick Rail that's going to give us a rundown of the first half of the season recap team by team. Patrick, the floor is yours.
All right, first half of the season, we had, like Josh said, we have 2 9-1 teams. We have a winless team that is the Plain White Tees. I'm going to go ahead and start off with my team. Show a little bit of favoritism. And we're going to start with the Sit on My Base. Sit on My Base opened the season against Black Sheep Wiffle, which is bag tag rebranded. They went with Black Sheep Wiffle, and it didn't help them the first week. They lost 15-3, 17-0 that first week. Sit on My Base swept them. Sit on My Base came back and swept Plain White Tees the next week, 13-2 and 17-3. They then faced a very tough Chicken and Wiffles team, at which they beat 7-8 both games. Both games were very tightly scored, and it was probably one of the most exciting games we had in the league so far. Then we had Sit on My Base and Breaking Balls facing off, both undefeated. Sit on My Base took the first game 8-4. The second game, Breaking Balls won 13-1. That was actually Nick Capra's last game in the league. He has moved on to law school. We lost a great pitcher. I hate to see him go. The week after that, Sit on My Base finished out the first half of the season facing Wiffle and Dixie. They ended up sweeping that series 12-2 the first game and 16-0 the second game. Most of those runs coming in the last inning. We'll go ahead and move on to the other side of the division. Paul's team, since he won last year's team, he kind of rebranded himself, and now he goes by the name Asthmatics.
He has a team brand of nothing but rookies aside.
He has nothing but rookies, like Josh said. But he won. He split the first series against Wiffle and Dixie. Greg actually shocked the Wiffle world by beating him. Everybody picked Greg to be a winless team, and he came out and actually got his first win. The second game of the season against the Asthmatics. Asthmatics lost the first game, 8-5. Won the second game, 8-5. Then they took on Huntington Wifflers. One game was a 12-9 win for the Wifflers and a 3-4 win for the Asthmatics. Asthmatics then came out against Breaking Balls. They lost both of these games very close. The first game was a 2-1 game. Second game was a walk-off by Ryder to win it for the Breaking Balls 18-4. I
think Ryder's a contender for possibly most improved.
Yeah, he has really come on strong. And then they faced off against Plain White Tees, won 11-0 and 15-4. They came out ready to play Black Sheep, and that was going to be the game of the week last week. Black Sheep ended up forfeiting. They had a couple members out of town, but that gave Asthmatics 2 wins. So they've had they're 6-4 coming into the half point. They're looking improved each game. If they can get pitching solved, they'll look good. We'll go ahead and move on to Black Sheep Wiffle. Bag tag rebranded.
I like the brand renewal. I like the new jerseys and everything. So
yeah, the new jerseys are a really nice touch.
Now, the colors don't match, but the logo is still the same. So,
like I said, they opened up the season losing both games against Sit on My Base. We won't go back through that. They played Chicken Wiffles. That was the game of the week that week. Chicken Wiffles came out and stumbled.
Yeah, struggled to hit the ball.
They lost 18-3, but Black Sheep won both of these games 18-13 and 15-0. Then they faced off against Plain White Tees and kind of showboated. Wanted to come out and show what they really had. They won 53-1 the first game, 15-4.
We had to renew an old rule from a previous season to put a cap on 20 runs for a game lead, and before you just call it. You just got to call it sometimes and just go, we're burning daylight here. They barely finished their second game before they ran out of daylight. Unfortunate that we had to bring a rule back like that back, but we do have 2 games to play every night for each team.
All right, and the last 2 weeks they had regular season games. They actually got the forfeit from the Wifflers, so they won both of those games by forfeit. And then, like I said earlier, they forfeited to the Asthmatics. So they are sitting also at 6-4, second place due to the run differential and beating Chicken and Wiffles.
I really think they probably could have swept last week. They could have been on an 8-game winning streak if they
really could have, and that would have put a lot of pressure on Sit on My Base. But right now, Sit on My Base is kind of sitting out in the front of the division, just waiting.
I'm 100% convinced that if Black Sheep Wiffle would have showed up last week, even won one of the games, split the series, they probably wouldn't be sitting at a national ranking right now. But those 2 losses coming from the forfeits, they may have just kind of sealed them to maybe, if they ever get ranked, they're never going to get above number 40.
And we covered Breaking Balls. Breaking Balls, like I said, are 9-1. They opened up the season. They welcomed the Wifflers to the Huntington Wiffle Ball League. Just completely dominated them. The first game was a 17-6 victory. They didn't actually get to play the second game because of a forfeit. They came out, they beat Wiffle and Dixie 15-6 and 13-8. Kind of Wiffle and Dixie really hung in there against them. Then they, like I said, they beat the Asthmatics in 2 close games. They split against Sit on My Base. We've already covered that one. They took the forfeit from Plain White Tees to end the first half of the season. So they're also sitting at 9-1. They haven't played for 2 weeks now. They have to come back and play a Black Sheep team that has not played for 3 weeks now. And that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Is Black Sheep as good as the 53 points, or was that just putting up runs? I think that's going to be a very good game, especially Drew's lost a lot of velocities with the move back. I mean, that everybody said that it wasn't going to make that big of a difference.
He's had an arm injury, too.
Yes. But they have Gordo. Gordo is coming out and pitching, and he pitched against...
He played all season last year. He never pitched once.
And now he came out and pitched against Sit on My Base, and he really put on a clinic. That was the main reason why they beat him 13-1. Was Sit on My Base couldn't.
He did more than just hit the zone. He hit it hard.
And Sit on My Base couldn't make contact. So we'll go ahead and move on. I think Chicken and Wiffles are next, but I can hold off until Ronnie gets over here if you want me to.
Sure.
So we'll move on. The next team is really hard to get a read on. Huntington Wifflers, when they show up, they're a good team. They're not a bad team in any means.
Which team shows up, man? They got 6 players, but I don't think we've had the same combination of players show up 2 weeks in a row.
I mean, you throw out the first week where they lost both games to Breaking Balls. I mean, that's just you coming in here, first week playing wiffle ball. You didn't show up to any of the preseason games, and now you're facing off against last year's, who should have been at least a top 3 team nationally last year because they were so dominant. And you're having to come in and learn how to play wiffle ball against that team.
One of the most seasoned teams. That's what.
It's almost unfair.
That's what makes this season a lot more different than other seasons we've had previously. This is the most return teams we've ever had from one season to another, and we also have like 2 or 3 teams that are completely brand new. So you have this fire and ice challenge. You have just 2 opposite ends of the spectrum going up against each other in these first few weeks of matchups, and there's a few teams that just did not stand a chance. Huntington Wiffler is definitely one of them.
And they got their first win of the season in week 2. First game against the Asthmatics, 12-9. I mean, Paul walked probably Major League Baseball roster the whole game. But, I mean, they still – it takes a wiffle ball IQ to know when not to swing at the bad pitches,
Right.
and they came in and they did it.
The wind was a factor these first 2 weeks.
They ended up dropping the second game to the Asthmatics 4-3. Again, that's a very close game. They hung in there. They forfeited to Wiffle and Dixie the second game, but also lost to them the first game 9-6. They forfeited both games to Black Sheep, like we said, and they lost both games to Chicken Wiffles. But those were two. That was the most tightly contested games of the season. Also, right there, the wind was a huge factor, and they ended up losing both games. One game 6-7, the other game 3-1. Ronnie Canterbury is going to come on and talk about his team, Chicken Wiffles. They're having a great season this year, facing off in the Jewel City division. They are 6-4, tied with Bag Tag, but Bag Tag has the series that they beat them in. And Ronnie's here to talk about the season. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Hi. Run through the season so far. How bring us to now.
I don't know. We were kind of beginning of the year, kind of getting used to each other, but we'll be all right. First game, wouldn't say it was an easy win, but who was it we played first game?
Plain White Tees.
Yeah. I don't even think they've won a game.
They have not.
Okay. They played us pretty decent. Second game was, or actually the second series was
Black Sheep Wiffle.
Yeah, Black Sheep Wiffle. Merced us both games. They're a good team when they show up, but we're ready for them the next game, wind permitting. Third series was sit on my base. We should have at least split, but that was our mistake. The second game, actually, it was my mistake. The second game, and then we beat everybody else. But
Yep, you're on a 4-game win streak heading into All-Star break. Obviously, we're on All-Star break. You come out and you actually play the Asthmatics to start the season up again next week. Mm-hmm. What is your game plan going in facing Paul? We know he can be a wild pitcher. We know he's very competitive. In a good way, he's not as bad as other players that have been in the league.
Right.
But he is a wild pitcher.
We beat ourselves. Every team beats themselves. They get too impatient at the plate. Just make that pitch. Pitch count doesn't mean anything, but confidence is a huge thing. Pitching, because if you can't hit the board, at least the first 2 batters, you're done. I think for the day. So I mean, we'll just be selective at the plate and see what happens. I think our bats are okay.
And you also, I mean, you guys lucked out heading into All-Star break. I mean, I'm not saying the schedule really helped you out. You faced off against the Wifflers and you faced off against Wiffle and Dixie.
Yes.
You come outside of All-Star break, and this is where you have to pay for what you did.
Right.
Because you face off against the Asthmatics, and then you turn around and you have to face Breaking Balls.
That's fine.
And then you go right back into your division of playing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. You guys have the team to be able to make this run. You have the team that's smart enough to go out there and play. And, you know, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we should be okay. I don't know. Asthmatics, they're a good team. I mean, they hit the ball, but like you said, all comes down to pitching of Paul. If he's on, he's on. If he's not, then that's trouble for them. But Josiah, he can pitch his ass off. So I'm honestly more worried about Josiah than I am Paul. Breaking balls. Drew's been kind of struggling this year. I guess the 3 feet has affected him a lot, but that's all Nick Gordon throw against, I think that's his name, Nick Gordon?
Matt Gordon.
Matt Gordon, I'm sorry, Matt. I saw Matt Gordon throw against sit on my base, and he surprised me because I didn't think he would, be able to pitch, being that his first time, but like I said, I'm more worried about him because we have never seen him, but we've seen Drew. So we know what Drew brings, but we don't know what Matt brings. Just be selective to batters and play our game. We should be okay.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Ronnie as far as Chicken Wiffles is concerned, because that is a team I play on. Jacob Fisher is finally doing better as a pitcher. He really struggled with accuracy those first couple of weeks. I would say that cost us the first game in our series versus Black Sheep Wiffle. Hitting has always been there. Justin Fairman's hitting the ball better than ever. I don't know what the hell happened during the All-Star game, but we are a pretty good hitting team. We're a pretty good pitching team because myself and Rick have been going in a lot. There's some teams, they respond better to pitching styles like Jacob Fisher's. They like the speed and they can make the contact and do something with it. But then you got pitchers like you got Greg Sowards, people that sort of they have that different approach, and it's hard to get a pushback back from that. So there's actually a reward with these pitching rotation rules for people like Greg Sowards and Mikey Saxton and people who are those more medium speed pitchers. So
and the distance is helping the medium speed pitchers. I mean, Jeremy Ray has never been a fast pitcher by the book. I mean, you had last year you had Steven who was lighting up the radar gun. You had Nick who was lighting up the radar gun, and you had Drew lighting up the radar gun. You moved 3 feet back. Nick lost velocity.
Still had a lot, though.
Yeah, he still did. Nick still had the speed. He was the only one out of those 3 that kept his speed. Drew lost his velocity, and Steven lost his accuracy. Whatever bit he had lost it. He started finding it back. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to fully regain the composure and be able to come back. But Jeremy was kind of buried in those pitchers last year. Jeremy has stepped up, and he has now become one of the better pitchers in the league, just
really
because
he's a lead side wiffle
yes,
right now.
Yeah, and it's because the medium speed is what's winning you games. I mean, Gordo doesn't fire it in there, but he has that medium speed and movement on his pitches, and that's going to be the interesting thing. And we're getting a lot of sexual references here in the peanut gallery, so we'll go ahead and move on.
Who's the last
we have 2 teams. It's going to be Plain White Tees is the next one up. They have not won a game. I'm not going to kind of open up old scars by going through their game by game.
Their main issue, if I could interject here, is James Albright. I really think if he would have been participating more, that is probably hands down Rookie of the Year, with the exception of maybe Josiah Chapman. Josiah Chapman, considering the lack of competition as far as that level of gameplay.
Well, don't forget about Sturgill.
Yeah, you got Sturgill. You also got pretty good ball players like Veronica Stanley.
Who just went yard.
In the London practice. You've got guys like... we're recording a podcast right now. Pretty much anybody on Asthmatics that's not Paul is a rookie, and they're all performing pretty well. Yep. But I would say Josiah is performing on both sides of the plate the way you expect of a Rookie of the Year. James Albright is the only one that came close, and he kept some of those games interesting the first 2 weeks. And where has he been? He's not.
I mean, his schedule changed. I understand why he hasn't been here, but if Andy is able to get his team back, maybe pick up a dark horse player. And I'm just going to throw a name out there, really. I mean, this guy would be a great player because he has the experience. He has the ability to coach them. Not necessarily have to play all the time. If they have 3 players, he doesn't even have to go out there. He can just be there to give them this guidance, and that's Jeremy Litton.
Laramie
Jitten. He has the ability to do it. It's just if he's going to step up to the plate and take it.
Okay, thanks for your vote of confidence, Pat, but
all you need is a white T-shirt.
I'm retired. I love retirement. I don't have to do anything. Very little. Sometimes I help pack up. Sometimes I help with cameras.
I participated under the moniker Eric Shamblin.
I don't know who Eric Shamblin is. I hear he's not that great of a rookie, but he might get better. But as far all intents and purposes, I am not returning. But you might see more of Eric. He's like a once in a blue moon player. So
Eric reminds me of a young Jeremy Lin except with a bigger dick.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
a much bigger dick.
Some guys worry about the awards, the Hall of Fame votes.
Do we have any other teams to go?
Yeah, we have one last team. But Jeremy Litton used to be the guy who just wanted the love of the game. That's where he used to come from. Hopefully his friend that's a rookie would come through and do it every once in a while.
Do it for little Jeremy. By
little Jeremy.
I mean Jeremy's little penis.
Yeah. Last team on our list is Greg Soward's team.
Whifflin' Dixie, baby.
Whifflin' Dixie, the most racist team out there. They've held a couple. They've held a couple of cross burnings after their games, their wins, I should say.
Miscegenation of wiffle ball.
They like I said, they shocked the league when they beat the Asthmatics in the first week. That was they split the series with them.
I gotta say that was my one preseason prediction. I felt 100% vindicated in making. I was like, I'm telling you, they're not going to win a single game. Their very first game, they won. I was like, well, so much for that.
If they didn't have Mike McCoy is this. He carries that team. He carries it all the way that he can go.
With us is Greg Sowers. What do you have to say about your progress so far in the season as Wiffle Dixie?
First off, we're not last. There's 2 teams below us.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
First off, we're not last. We're not last.
In your division.
In any division.
No, that's true.
The entire league.
So what you're saying is that you're not at the point of getting a lottery pick, but you're at the point of ruining a franchise because you refuse to lose.
You know, we could beat anyone. We could beat anyone in any given day.
Yeah, they are actually
3-7.
3-7. There you go. They've surprised them.
Breaking balls. We had close games with breaking balls. I mean,
they kept it close to breaking balls. They beat the Asthmatics and
if we did not help the pitcher so much by swinging a shit, I think my team can make a tournament.
And they kept it close in the sit on my base game. Sit on my base really didn't do too much until the 5th inning of that game.
It was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, Mikey was striking out people like Dunkel and Andrew and Ray. I mean, they're a decent team. I mean, they're missing. They're one player. They're one player short. That's all it is. They get one player that could actually come in and help Mike McCoy. They're there.
We get a day where Mike's as hot as he can be. Mikey does well. You know,
Mikey has actually improved a lot as a pitcher this year.
If I'm floating around in there, getting on base with walks and singles, you know, putting people on base for Mike. I mean, we've loaded the base a lot this year, but we've left a lot.
Gary's a wild card too. You never know.
He hit a grand slam against breaking balls.
You never know
They've been a great team. I mean, like we said, you know, we have one cellar dweller, and that's just because they haven't been able to get their whole team here. But I mean, it's looking like the second half is really going to shape up to be anybody's contest. You have, if the playoffs started next week, you'd have a 2 versus 3 game of Black Sheep, Chicken Wiffles, and then you turn around and you have a 2-3 game of Asthmatics and Wiffle and Dixie, and those games would be on a 1-game series. Either of those teams could move on.
I would say, as far as attendance-wise, probably one of the most sturdy teams in the league is probably Wiffle and Dixie.
Yes.
If I can backpedal just for a second. I mean, I think just about every week they've had all 5 of their players here. Almost no other team has been able to do that except maybe Chicken and Wiffles.
We only have 4 players.
They only have 4 players? Oh, yeah, Andy Hill split off
Matt is our pitching player, but he doesn't even have a jersey.
Yeah, Matt Thornton's in the win now. I'd say he's gone for the rest of the year. That actually could have been your X factor. If you would have had Matt Thornton for the rest of the year, I would say you guys would finish the year at 500.
But that's been the Wiffle season up until the All-Star break. Josh, thanks for having me on. I'm going to go play a little bit. Have fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's anybody's game this year. I mean, any team could beat any other team on any given night. I mean,
Wiffle and Dixie all the way.
Wiffle and Dixie could go all the way. I mean, Breaking Balls hasn't been the strongest, and honestly, if you play their team at full strength, you actually have a better chance of beating them.
Yeah. Well, the Wifflers, 3 of their 5 players were in a basketball league that just ended last week, so we could be looking at a very strong Huntington Wifflers team going into the rest of the season. So.
Yeah, I saw 3 of their players when we played them, and they were pretty talented all the way around. Give them some experience, and you know, in the playoffs, you automatically get there. So you just have to beat 2 teams.
Yep, and
like I said, any given Sunday factors in here. You know, anybody can beat anybody at any given time. Our pitching rule will hurt teams. It's going to bring some strategy into who pitches in your first game of the playoffs versus who's going to pitch in your second game. You know, and that could ultimately decide one of those 2-3 games because they may pitch a weaker pitcher in the first game and lose it all.
Yeah.
First pitch in their stronger pitcher who they want to save for the better team. That is more than likely coming out of the 1-4 games.
Right. Well, I mean, I would say just about every team's going to be bringing their A game in the second half of the season. Teams that have been historically having attendance issues, like Black Sheep Wiffle, Brandon Williams should be coming back, and that may help them out, but it may not. Asthmatics have been getting a lot better. Some of these newer teams have been coming around. Asthmatics are a very good ball club right now. Chicken Wiffles have finally shaken off the rust from Fisher. I've been pitching better. Rick's been pitching.
You actually have one of the lowest ERAs for one of the most innings pitched in the league.
But I don't really. I have one win and no saves. I don't have anything really statistically
other than the ERA.
Yeah, I have a good ERA and a good WHIP. But so far this year, it seems, if I could switch gears here for a second, our batting averages have really gone up. Brian Ball is leading the league right now with like an 805 average or something like that. We haven't had numbers like that since 2013. I'm really hoping to see those numbers dip down to maybe like where the top hitter is hitting 600 like they were last year.
I think they will. I think it's taken pitchers a lot to get dialed into hitting the strike zone from the extra 3 feet.
We've had a lot of wind this year too.
It's had a lot to do with the two fielders. Not so much, but I mean, occasional lucky hit down, the other way, and you're on base, maybe on second. So I think the 3 feet, the two fielders, has really hurt the pitchers a lot. But second part of the year, people hitting the strike zone more.
Yeah.
It gets a lot hotter out here, so the pitchers that throw more directly at the strike zone are going to have a lot more luck because batters are going to be tired. The wind and air is not going to move the ball around as much.
Batters are going to be chomping at the bit to get something happening while they want to boost their statistics and also make something happen. It's a hell of a lot easier to get the runners moving around the bases by actually doing something than waiting for the pitcher to do all the work for you.
Yeah.
So I think that may play to the benefit of a lot of pitchers. So we'll move on from that subject and touch on it again later this year, hopefully in the next podcast, and then compare notes from where we're at right now to where we are at that point. But I'm hoping to see the averages go down. The amount of home runs have actually gone up. I mean, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 players over 10 home runs. We've got Justin Fairman, Brian Ball, Mike McCoy,
Andrew Westcott,
and Ryan Pritt round out the top 5 there of guys hitting in the double digits home runs so far. We could have people hitting 20 home runs or so for the first time since 2013. I don't remember who had home run king last year. It was probably Steven Atkins or somebody like that. And
I believe it was Matt Gordon, yes.
I think he had around 12, 13 home runs or something like that. So already we're hitting 2014 numbers in the first half of the season, which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing, but I think it is going to hurt our chances at individual Woofy Awards on the player basis, just by the outrageous numbers being put up, because it's going to be hard to take that seriously. I think we have just enough new players to where it's sort of skewing those numbers a little bit and not really making it even. But who knows? Maybe those inflated numbers will help us get some individual Whiffy awards. Not that we care about that, but James Clagg definitely cleaned up. I think he won 3 Whiffies in 2013.
It just depends on how deep John Converse or Wiffle 100 digs into the numbers. I mean, if he really digs in and sees it was a trend in the league rather than a player that just went hot.
Right.
If he digs in and looks at, they just hit 15 versus one team that was 0-20, he's probably not going to give that guy a lot of credit.
So let's switch gears to another subject. There's something else I think we'd like to do. Greg, you like to do this, the way too early predictions. We do this all the time by ourselves, of course. But something we occasionally like to bring out publicly for everyone's amusement. But in all seriousness, I think it's time to take a look at the awards watch much earlier than we normally do. I normally sort of look and try to get an idea of who I would think deserves the award for certain categories. Now, 99% of the awards are statistics based, and it's very little opinion. Things like Cy Wiffle and sportsmanship, those are things that require a little bit of opinion or weighed options.
I'm just happy that we have 3 other people to weigh in on this year other than just me and you, so we can say, hey, this was a committee decision rather than just me and Josh. This was Josh, Greg, Jeremy, Ronnie, and Pat coming together, talking, discussing, voting,
Rubbing.
touching each other because our wives hate us, and making a group decision on who's going to be.
So without further ado, I'll go give mine, then Greg you go, and then Jeremy. So Cy Wiffle, we've got a few pitchers that are really shining this year. Jeremy Ray, I think, at the top. Nick Capra, he has unfortunately moved back to Baltimore for graduate school for his law degree. He may come back to visit from time to time, but I would say his wiffle ball career in the Huntington Wiffle League may finally be over. So we bid him farewell last week. If he were here all season, I would almost guarantee Cy Wiffle probably for him. He had a tough last week. He gave up like 14 runs to breaking balls in his last week. Not really the best way to go out, but, you can't always go out on top. So Nick Capra's out of the picture. He had a lot of strikeouts and was a contender, but his teammate Jeremy Ray has had to step up from really the number 2 pitching position to number 1, and he's answered the call quite nicely. 9-1 as a team. He's not had a major loss. He lost to the undefeated Breaking Balls when they split their series last week. He pitches well. He has a great screwball, a curveball, and this killer off-speed drop pitch, and he hits the zone consistently. He's a fantastic pitcher. He's got a reasonable ERA and a whip, and I think he's only going to get better as the season goes. He pitches till his arm falls off, so I'm hoping with the replacement they got in Scott Westcott to replace Capra that Scotty can actually help out on the mound so that Jeremy isn't overextending himself, because I think it could cost him later on. But he's my leader as far as I'm concerned for Cy Wiffle. Candidates that are sleeping right now, probably Drew McClanahan and maybe Paul Hessen if he gets it together, or Josiah Chapman or somebody like that. Somebody on a winning team. But we got a lot of good pitchers this year. Maybe even Jacob Fisher if he gets his act together. Strikeout King, so far, Jeremy Ray has the lead, but I can really see Jacob Fisher coming up from behind and taking that away from him, or maybe someone like Josiah Chapman, or maybe even Drew, or Matt Gordon if he keeps stepping up. It's not a lot of strikeouts this year. I think 33 strikeouts is the lead so far.
The pitching rotation is, killing it this year. It's not
having one of the 100 strikeouts, I don't think, this year. Which I think Drew had like 225 strikeouts or something like that last year. So, it's looking like it's pretty much going to come down to 3 people, probably Drew McClanahan, Jeremy Ray, and Jacob Fisher. Maybe somebody else will sneak in there, but I doubt it. Home Run King, it's anybody's race right now. We've got Mike McCoy. I think Brian Ball's leading right now. He's having one hell of a season. He's looking at maybe Offensive Player of the Year in this league right now. He's hitting 805, hit 13 home runs, I think. I don't even know how many RBIs he has off the top of my head. He's got a 1 home run lead on people like Justin Fairman, Andrew Westcott, and then there's people not too far behind like Mike McCoy's having the biggest season he's ever had.
Won the home run derby.
He won the home run derby tonight. And then, you've always got someone like Steven Atkins who could come in from behind and get it. Justin Fairman's been hitting the ball a lot as well. So, I mean,
just not tonight.
Yeah, Home Run King, he's not in the lead right now, but I really do see Mike McCoy, Wiffle Dixie has played a lot of really good teams, and he's hitting the ball off of everybody, even Jeremy Ray. And I really think if he shows up every week, he's going to take that lead, and he's going to hold it. So I'm looking at Mike McCoy possibly being the home run king as far as I'm concerned. For Rookie of the Year, it really comes down to 2 players, and one of them's been showing up more than the other. James Albright of Plain White Tees, who's only showed up 2 weeks, so he's pretty much out of the running in my opinion, unless he comes back every week and plays his ass off. And Josiah Chapman. I mean, you got a few other people like Veronica Stanley and Samaya Chandy, Jonathan Maxwell, Zach Sturgill, and Frank Schuler. But right now, Josiah Chapman's the one that's been producing the goods. And he's hitting the ball a mile. He's also probably another possible candidate for Home Run King if he plays his cards right and shows up. And he's also a really good pitcher. But I would say right now he's pretty much got Rookie of the Year in the bag. And most improved player, this may actually be the year that we're going to have the hardest decision coming with most improved player. I think Patrick Rail is leading right now. I would say Patrick's probably the lead right now. You also got Kevin Chatton, who's doing a lot better. When he shows up, his attendance hasn't been the greatest so far. We've got Mike McCoy, who's just a different player altogether this year. He's showing up more. He's playing a lot better. And not to sound conceited, but I really thought when I left the Green Bears team, now Whifflin-Dixie, that it was going to affect them negatively, profoundly on the offensive level. Because, I mean, I was a main portion of the offense for a while there. He really stepped up and adopted the team's offense. So he's doing well. Jeff Ryder, he's hitting home runs a lot. He played in the All-Star game, and he's doing a lot better. And, there are a few other names out there I probably could mention, but it's a little early. But I would say right now, Patrick Rail, Jeff Ryder, those are probably the two I'm looking at so far for that. Greg, what do you got for awards watch?
Cy Wiffle, you've got the obvious, Jeremy Ray. You've got Drew McClanahan in there just kind of floating around at the top of the barrel. One person I think could really make a dent in Cy Wiffle if he got to pitch more, Josh Smith.
Yeah, right.
He pitched a beautiful game against us. He's been pitching well all year. You have one of the top ERAs from guys who have pitched more than 2 innings. One of the best whips for anybody who's pitched more than 2 innings. Your team keeps taking you out of games for whatever reason.
No idea. They won't let me finish.
And they blow the lead or whatever, and then you guys struggle to get back in there and get it back on track. And sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. So I think you have a shot at it if you get to pitch more in the second half. I mean, this pitcher rotation makes it so no one is statistically going to jump out to a lead at any part of the season and
really
just be absolutely better than everyone else, because they're only going to get 1 game to show it in. If they're showing it in 2 games a week like they were last year, it makes it a lot easier to pick that person.
Okay.
Strikeout king, I think 2 of the top people in the league are probably Jeremy Ray and Drew McClanahan. Out of those 2 people, I would probably have to pick Jeremy Ray because he's going to try to pitch every inning he can, so he's going to have more strikeouts than Drew will.
Drew's had not as good of attendance this year, too.
Yes, his attendance is very shaky this year because he's committed to other things, so there's weeks he may not be here. So Jeremy could pull ahead in the strikeouts in that way. As far as we go into our home run king, I have to agree with you. I say Mike McCoy is going to run away with it in the second part of the year. If, a couple more guys on Whifflin-Dixie get it together and swing the bat and get on base, he'll be hitting more RBIs. He'll have more chances to actually hit the ball. And he's going to hit them out of the park. He won the home run derby today.
Yep.
I just think he will have the opportunity to jump out ahead of people. He would probably have more home runs this year had we been able to play a second game against the Whifflers. He hit 3 home runs in the first game that day and didn't get to play in the second. We blew both games against Chicken and Wiffles way early, and everybody was frustrated, and it was hot, and if we stop helping out the pitchers and get on base a little bit more and Mike gets more at bats, who knows how many home runs he could have. My rookie of the year right now, if he gets to show up more and the rest of his team shows up more in the second half of the year, it could be Zach Sturgill. He's an amazing bat. I was pitching around him when we played him. I was pitching to the other 2 guys on his team. Josiah.
Okay, so you're saying about Josiah Chapman?
Yeah, I think he has a really good average right now. Great hitting the ball. It just depends on the second half of the year how these guys do. I mean, for everyone, you're really looking at the most recent thing they do. That's hard to overcome in people's minds. But at the end of the year, we'll sit down and look at all. Right now, Zach Sturgill, Jerry Southall could come in, just sweep the thing.
Yeah.
Who knows?
What about most improved? What do you got for most improved?
Most improved right now, got Justin Fairman.
Really?
I believe he's the most improved. Last year, I struck him out in every way possible. You know, he's hitting the ball really well this year, hitting home runs. But, of course, I got two guys on my team also, Mikey Saxton and Mike McCoy. They're both doing really well this year for us, getting on base, hitting home runs. Mikey hasn't hit one this year, but he's hit it to the wall a couple times, gotten on base quite a bit.
He's actually pitching pretty good.
His pitching has improved. You know, we're a wild card all the way around. We could have most improved on our team, rookie of the year, you know, take a championship home. Who knows what we could do? Okay. Who thought the Honey Badgers were going to win a championship last year mid-season?
No.
During the All-Star break, who had them picked to win it all? Nobody. Nobody had anybody beating breaking balls.
Or sitting on base.
Or sitting on base either, you know.
Okay. So, all right, let's move on to Jeremy's expectations on who will probably win each award. So, Jeremy, let's give us who you think's going to win Cy Wiffle.
Woo! So much for that short and sweet intro of who's going to win what. But let's see.
All right, let's see if you can do it. I'll give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay. On the clock.
Number one, Cy Wiffle, Jeremy Ray. Why? Stats. Maybe Drew can pull it out if he figures out the whole 3 feet equation. Can you hold it down over there? King, Mike McCoy. Enough said. Move on.
Okay, strikeout king. Who's going to strike out the most batters this year?
I think he who pitches the most.
So what are you looking at here? Jeremy Ray?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
What about most improved player?
Most improved player. So, some might say Mikey. I'll say Patrick Rail. And then finally,
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year. I will say Josiah Chapman. He hasn't played in any of the leagues before. He is an older player from a million years ago in your past, but he's new to this league and everything Huntington represents. So, Josiah Chapman, look at the stats. Enough said. Move on.
You did it in less than 2 minutes, man. I gotta say.
Oh, can I add one more?
Sure.
And because I've got time left over, unlike you, Josh, and Greg over there, I'm even going to add in Sportsmanship Award. Andy Hill for taking it like a man.
I'll take that.
Taking it like a man
There's
against Bagtag.
They may go 0-20.
Yeah.
There's no team
I've
in
been
the league
there.
that's ever been completely defeated like that. But there's a possibility that with the attendance issues they're having, they may actually run into that. All right, those are our awards watches so far, and our way too early predictions for who will win what award by the end of the year. So we'll be right back after this break. We'll talk about our departure from the NWLA Tournament. Looking forward to London Wiffle Tournament, and that'll probably be it for wrapping up for this podcast. We may have an exclusive interview to also insert before we wrap this thing up. So we'll be right back after this break.
We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We've got the right to choose it. There ain't no way we'll lose it. This is our life. This is our song. We'll fight the powers that be just. Don't think contest and because you don't know us, you don't belong. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. Oh, you're so condescending. Your goal is never ending.
Something that we made waves yet again with the National Wiffle League Association tournament. We just want to briefly address it, although we'll probably talk about it a little longer than what we want to. It does need addressed, I think, in public because, okay, so just the long and short of it, we are not going to be participating in the 2015 National Wiffle League Association Regional Qualifier or the tournament. this year, maybe ever, I figure. After an article I wrote, I doubt that we're going to be invited back, which is fine. But it's something I wanted to address maybe on a more brief level for people who don't want to read the long article. So if you want to read the article, it's on the website. It's called Considering Geography, Why the Huntington Wiffle League Will Not Be Participating in the NWLA Tournament. If you're looking for it, which is www.huntingtonwiffleball.com, and you'll find it in the news section under articles. So we've been participating in this tournament in some way or another since its inception in 2012. Before we started this league in Huntington in 2012, I ran a online wiffle ball news blog and magazine called Wiffler's Digest, for those in the league that didn't know. It's not really that big of a deal. It was just something to kill time between leagues. I didn't think I was going to be starting any other league, so I continued to want to follow the sport and just connect with people and just see what was out there and who I could talk to and just get going. And I ended up going out to Washington, D.C. Chris Galloway invited me out to meet the Nationals game, and I was supposed to watch their games that Sunday, but it rained. They have horrible luck with weather out there for the Potomac Wiffle Ball League in D.C. And I talked with him, interviewed him, and I decided I wanted to start the league. And he also talked a lot about a national association in which we all sort of share the same rules. And as this tournament continues to grow, that's something I see happening. A lot of leagues are amending their rule books and wanting to emulate closely the National Wiffle League Association tournament rule book. And our league is one of them that is following it as closely as possible with our own adaptations to keep ourselves as individual as possible. But along with the good stuff that's happened with that tournament, there's a few things I just don't agree with, especially as far as our place as a league that's participating on the playing level. 2012, Greg and I and Mike Saxon actually went there at a media capacity, okay, and took pictures and video. Could have done a much better job. I did what I could, but considering that it sort of just sprung up overnight, I think we did pretty good. I was on the organizing committee, but stepped down because I didn't want to take credit for something that basically one person made happen. If there's no Chris Galloway, there's no National Wiffle League Association tournament. I don't want anybody to think that I'm being intentionally, rather, being disrespectful against anyone in the organizing committee on purpose, especially Chris Galloway. You have no Chris Galloway, you have no NWLA tournament, simply said. But 2013, Greg and I decided, hell yes, we're going to definitely put a team in. Everyone was all about it last year, and they put a team in. Huntington is not that far away from Columbus. We were actually probably the closest league to the location, so it would be stupid if we were not participating in it. So we brought a team. Half the team dropped out last minute. Greg and I played. We did horrible, and we did the unthinkable, following the rules and accepting a forfeit that was not a very popular decision. We became alienated almost immediately. This is kind of an old story, but for anyone just from the outside looking in who either doesn't care or doesn't want to do all the looking through of the past to find out why we're acting this way, just to give you the basic skinny. So it was not a very popular decision. As soon as we lost our next game, I was out of there because I was not comfortable. We went from everyone being cordial to pretty much like, why the hell are you here?
It was a douchebag move.
Well, I guess, but it should not have been an option.
Completely douchebag move, obviously, Josh.
Apparently. But it shouldn't be in the rule book. And I was disappointed that the organizing committee did not uphold the rule and then just that be the end of it. I really think that should have been the end of it. The umpires were like, that's the rules. You should not play the game. That was what we were told by the umpires, which apparently is meaningless. And no one backed us up on it. I think if it would have been someone else, it might have been different, but I have no way to really back that up as far as a claim. But people changed their tune real quick of how they treated us. There was very few people that were actually still talking to us while we left. So I didn't stick around for the championship like I would have liked because I didn't feel welcome anymore. So we come back next year, got a chip on our shoulder, Greg and I and you. We start building a team almost immediately. Before we even have all the players for the league, we start building a team. Then we go back. We finish with an over 500 record. We do great. We get a little pissy about people walking all the time.
A little.
Yeah.
You wrote an article about it.
Well, I mean, as far as the tournament goes, I made my thoughts known to a few people, especially on the organizing committee, and I expressed that you guys really need to make a rule to cut down these walks because it's really killing the activity in the game. it's becoming more like a chess match and less like a baseball type of game. So I think it kind of really drags down the action. You get together and you drive all these distances, or fly in some cases, depending on where you're coming from. You want a little more energy in these games. Walking's part of the game, yeah, but it shouldn't be the dominant part of the game. So I did not write the most controversial article, surprisingly, about that. Jacob Fisher and Paul Hessen compiled a lot of statistics. And everyone got all pissed off because we had all these stats backing up our point. I'm like, yeah, God forbid it's just mindless bitching. Unless you got stats and you have something to say, and everyone would rather just go, nah, it's still bitching. It's like, well, whatever. We see an opportunity to make the tournament a little more exciting, and the games move a little faster, and the score either go up or down. Just make the game go faster. They do care about that because during pool play they have a time clock. So, I mean, the clock is ticking, literally, while you're playing in these round-robin games. So I thought that was something that maybe should be... And
actually, I found the round-robin games more fun because of the time clock.
Because the game was moving, you know what I mean? So, and then you get to these, double M games, and they really start dragging. Do you want to lose via walk-off walk, or do you want someone to hit the ball? You really have to ask yourself a question like that. So I don't think we were out of line by courting the idea that someone needs to do something. And pretty much everybody says something needs to be done. Susquehanna, I think Bill Resnick, he wrote an article saying that maybe they should make a slightly bigger strike zone. Everyone thinks it's crazy to have a first pitch strikeout, but I'm telling you, if you're in a league that has really got a lot of walks, give it a shot for a week and see how it goes, even if it's just a practice exhibition week. But so that made some waves for sure. Then this year, finally, for the regionals, they did that format and completely screwed us. There was only 6 locations.
What format is that again?
The regional qualifiers. They unveiled it pretty much right after the tournament last year. Justin Compkins came up with this idea. His team has been playing a lot of Golden Stick events, so I'm going to guess that the idea was sparked from Golden Stick Wiffle Association or League, whatever, which is not a bad idea. The idea was let's bring the tournament to these teams that may want to participate, but Columbus is kind of far away. So naturally, out of the 6 locations that apply for regionalship, which was Tampa Bay, Florida, yours truly, Skippy Wiffle Ball League, which is in St. Louis, Home Run League Twin Cities, which is in Minnesota, Kalamazoo Wiffle Ball League, which is in Michigan, and Backyard Wiffle League, Wiffle Ball League, which is in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Pretty much every regional host site was selected other than the South. And there were, I think, 5 or 6 teams in the South region that had already pretty much said that they were interested in playing and either put money down or were waiting to get voted in. Why the hell would you not put a regional, if not in Huntington or at least Tampa Bay? So when I put in the application, I said Tampa Bay is going to be really hot. And the weather is very unpredictable. It rains in Florida a lot.
Well, once a day around 2 o'clock, every day.
Yeah, so that didn't go over well apparently when I addressed that. Especially since the fact that the Tampa Bay Wiffle League, they play in the winter for a reason. Who the hell wants to play in southern weather like that in the mugginess? So I put that in with our application. We have a great site here now. Just look at pictures of video, and you can see you could fit 2 fields comfortably for the format, which is all you need. So we were just completely overlooked, and then they picked 3 Midwest sites and 1 site that was basically New Jersey. Wilkes-Barre is pretty close to New Jersey, and we were going to be driving like 8 hours no matter where we went.
Let me ask real quick. Wilkes-Barre was selected for which region?
The East region.
Just East?
Mm-hmm.
Not Southeast?
No.
Okay.
As the bird flies, or as the crow flies, that's probably the most non-crazy area to go, but we would have actually been selected for St. Louis for the South. Now we got...
But St. Louis isn't in the South.
No, it's not the Southeast. That's the Midwest. And then you also have Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then Eagan, Minnesota. They're probably 3 hours or so away. I'm not really that familiar with the best ways to get from Michigan to Minnesota. I mean, you have to go around the lake, so that would have to suck. But there are several Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan leagues in the National Wiffle League Association. But I really do think they really missed an opportunity to have representation from the South, especially from our league. And it just didn't make any sense for me to drive double the distance to qualify for a tournament half that distance away. I may be alone in that, but I don't think I am. And I think I can only speak for my league, but I would hope that there's at least one other league out there that may feel the same, and that I may have just stood up, maybe just for myself, not even my league, but I don't regret that.
Well, I know there were a lot of guys that just couldn't afford to go twice.
Yeah.
So
Well, then, the thing that made me the most upset
we work.
was as soon as we dropped out, less than 1 hour later, it was announced that there was a stipend where you get paid a certain amount for each mile you travel that really could have helped out.
Were we offered a stipend when we dropped
No,
at all?
there was no mention of a stipend until literally less than an hour after we dropped out, which I think is ridiculous. I think that's a little too convenient if you ask me. I hate to be bitter about it, but what else am I supposed to think? And then last year we finished in the top 8. Top 8 teams were supposed to have a guaranteed spot in the national tournament. All you have to do is just participate in the regional, no matter how you do. And they decided to do this like hockey rule run differentiation or whatever. And then Potomac Wiffle Ball League, which was like, I don't know, like 4 and 6 or something like that, or 2 and 6, were ranked 8th ahead of us, and we had like a 6 and 4 record or something, like 4 and 3 record, which doesn't make any sense to me. Galloway's league, he's going to run it. He literally could just said, and I would have been fine with it. Instead, as long as I'm running this thing, my league's playing in it. I would have been like, fine, that makes sense. I mean, that you shouldn't have that. But pretty much moving how you do stats in order to make that happen just doesn't make any sense to me. But we are not going to be participating in the 2015 National Wiffle League Association Tournament or the regional qualifier. And as far as I'm concerned, we're probably not going to be participating in National Wiffle League Association events here on after. But that's all we really have to discuss on this episode of the Huntington Wiffle League podcast. Do you have anything to discuss, Jeremy?
No, everybody else is left. It's just me and Josh on location in the dark.
Yeah, we are live in Miller Park, our location for the Huntington Wiffle League games.
And nobody's come up to offer me anything yet.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
We're alone on Huntington's south side in West Virginia at 9:56 p.m., and there has been no one to expose themselves to us or try to sell us drugs. That's how we know we're on the good side of town.
Right.
We've made it.
To the east side.
Signing off for this episode of the Huntington Wiffle League podcast, I'm your host, Josh Smith, with my co-host,
Jeremy Litton.
We'll talk to you soon.
Do you want to listen to more HWL podcasts? Hell yeah! Then go to HuntingtonWiffleBall.com and click on podcast.